know what the differences between transactional and transformative relationships are. Transactional relationships are those relationships that are a function of our title. And we love our titles, y'all. But we also need transformative relationships. And those relationships are built on vulnerability and trust and intimacy and transparency and care. And we all have these kind of transformative relationships in our lives. I was doing some work in, this is a neighborhood in North Richmond, in California called North Richmond. The brother that started a program there began to use transformative relationships to address the growing amount of violence and gun violence that was happening in the neighborhood. The North Richmond said, we're going to lower gun violence if we hire more police officers and spend millions and millions of dollars. My friend, y'all might know, Devon Bogan, said, you know what, I can lower gun violence in this neighborhood at a fraction of the cost by cultivating transformative loving relationships with young people who carry guns. And so when he started the program in North Richmond, I went to go look for it. I went to look at the program, and he started the program with these principles. And I'm not going to read them, but the last one is the relationship is the intervention, and the intervention is the relationship. In other words, if I can create caring, loving relationships with these young boys that carry guns, maybe that relationship can actually transform the decision to use the gun. So when I went to look at the program, it didn't look like much. In fact, I was like, Devon, man, these brothers ain't doing nothing but hanging out on the corner, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so I listened, and what he trained these older men, these were men that were from the community. And y'all know when folks are from the community, from the neighborhood, they're not just living there. They can do a genealogical sort of survey of where you or who you are, where you're from. It's like, oh, your last name Jackson? Oh, you Stephen Jackson's son? Oh, you mean I went to high school with Stephen? So they were able to locate and understand who their people are because they're from the community and had that relationship. But it didn't look like much. So when I listened, I realized that Devon had trained them to do three things, to say three things to these young men. Hey man, you know I want you to be alive and free. 2, is there anything I can do for you? And 3, you know I love y'all, right? Now, the third one I like, Devon, that's kind of corny, man. Like, how are you going to end gun violence by training other brothers to say, I love you, to these other brothers that carry guns, right? Y'all can laugh, it sounds corny, right? So he said, yeah, man, because they got to believe it. And so over time, it wasn't just the term, I love you. It was when one of the young men would go up and say, hey, man, I know your little brother, you told me your little brother needs some cleats. Go tell him, I got some cleats in the trunk. Hey, I know you said your I need some food, I'm going to take some food over there later on today. In other words, they became surrogate uncles. They became an extended part of their family. They began to establish trust. They began to cultivate this thing called transformative relationships. They began to share their own story and their own trauma with these young people. So much so that the young people began to listen to them. And one of the things that they asked the young people to do is because they're from the community is they say, man, we're not going to tell y'all not to carry guns because we know that's fake. But if you need to use the gun, please come seek me first. And so this is exactly what they did. This is Uncle Joe. And so there was a time when there was a shooting with some of the young men that they were working with. And the young men said, we're going to go retaliate. We're going to use our guns and retaliate because they shot up the park. But they remember what Uncle Joe said. They said, hey man, come see me first before y'all go use the guns. And so they came in. Joe was like, hey man, I know you guys are mad and angry. You got to go shoot up the park or whatever. But check this out. Let's go get some pizza first. Now, for a 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old boy, that actually is not a bad idea. Then we got pizza. And if you do that day in and day out, build those kind of relationships, transformative relationships, these are the results you get. When they started the program in 2009, they had 45 homicides. And by 2014, it was down to 12, and it's remained under that to this very day. Because they're creating these transformative relationships.